the queries. So we started with the queries last Tuesday, and we talked about the structure of the queries and how every query, or there are two main types of queries. There is a query by example, which we have been doing through design view in Access, or query wizard. So those are query by example. And the second type is SQL, which we say that it stands for Structured Query Language. Within SQL, there are two types of languages within SQL. So we have data definition language, which we said it deals mainly with the main objects, with the objects themselves. It doesn't deal with the data. So what do we mean by objects? It deals with creating, deleting, or updating, or altering objects that are tables, attributes, or index. Those are the main objects that we are talking about when we are talking about the data definition language. The second type of SQL language is the data manipulation language. So data manipulation language, we say it deals with four operations or four aspects of operations. So the first one is retrieving or retrieval of data. So those data manipulation language deals with data. So it retrieves data, it inserts or creates data, it deletes data, and it updates data. So those are the four main operations that are dealt in data manipulation language. And so far, we learned about the structure of the SQL statement. So SQL, you can call it SQL or Sql, doesn't matter. So the structure of SQL, as we have talked previously, we say there are command words. So it starts with a command word. So far we have looked at the command words such as select. We also demonstrated the delete command word, the alter command word, and the insert into command word, and the drop command word. So those are kind of the first keywords or command words, we call them, that are the first part of any SQL statement. So far, or from now on, we will be dealing mainly with select command words. So we demonstrated how to use those delete, insert, and so on, but the main ones that we will be dealing with from now on is the select statement. So the select statement is used mainly for data retrieval. That's what we will be interested in, because when you work, let's say, in a medical doctor's office, they will ask you to create some of those select statements. They want you to retrieve some of the data that they are really interested in. How many patients do we have with this specific diagnosis? Or how many patients that we have seen with this specific diagnosis, for example. And then we will actually today do some demonstrations with an example that has been created for us with a pet store. It is fun. Almost all of us have pets. All of you? How many of you who doesn't have a pet? I don't have a pet. I used to have a pet when I was a kid. And then, she was a dog, German Shepherd. And I remember when she died, I was crying. Oh, it was sad. But anyways,
Oh, did you have her for?
almost 7 years, because that's how old they can last.
Older.
6, 7 years, something like that. But I grew up with it. I used to steal my little sister's milk and give it to her. And then my mom would come, and, you know. And you know how moms are sometimes. Just beat the hell out of you. But so today we'll be talking about those types of pets such as cats, dogs, and this will help us actually understand how SQL commands can be done. So we will be using three ways to run queries. There is one example will be through query by example, so we'll be using query design in Access. Second one, we will be using SQL statements in Access. And the third one, we will be using SQL Server, which is a web query that we have created specifically for this class. So far, all of you should have access to the web query. So if you go to Module 6, you will see that we have a web query link, and we'll ask you to log into it. So you will use your own username and password that you log into KUMC resources, and you will see this screen. We will be using it in a little bit. And then also please download the pit store database, which is an Access file that we dealt with, or we haven't dealt with yet. We will be dealing with today. And the second, so those are the two files that we need. So now let's look at why do we need queries? So why do we need queries? So that's kind of the main question that we need to answer. So when you work in a physician's office and the physician comes to you and tells you who are, let's say, those patients that we make money out of the most, which unlikely person that might be done. So let's say that you work in a business, and then they will come to you, your boss, tells you which customers are the most, or who are our best customers. So this question is too broad. What does that mean? In a natural language, it is too broad for us. Can we translate that into data that we can tell? So would you think the output that we might need to answer this question? To our best customers. So how would you interpret that, best customer? So that's one interpretation. The one that has been loyal to us the longest.
Who's paid the most?
Who has paid the most?
Bought those products.
Who bought the most products? Some people might buy a lot, but maybe they are not profitable. We are not profitable from there. Maybe who has given us the most profit also. So we have different interpretation of it. So you have different ways to say that or to answer this question, and we usually use queries. So for that, we can use a query by example or SQL commands. And to run an SQL command or an SQL statement, this is what we need to know. First, we need to ask ourselves, what output do you want to see? So all of you said, here are some of the output. You said, who has been with us the longest? So that's one of the output. That's one of the columns that we will need. And you said the one who we have sold the most to. So that's another column that we output that we need to select. And you say the one who bought the most products from us. So that's another column. Someone else might say the ones who are more profitable for us. So that's another column. So first we need to decide when we have an SQL command or question or a query, the first question that we need to ask ourselves is, what are the outputs that we are interested in? So we need to define the output. The second thing, what do we already know about the constraints? So what do we already know? Do we have specific, for example, the ones who have been with us the longest? Do we know like what is the maximum, for example, length of customers that they have been here? That might be a constraint. And then what tables? We need to decide and identify which tables that we are going to retrieve that data from. And the last one is whether we are collecting this data or retrieving this data from one table or more than one table. So those are the questions that we need to keep in mind. First, what are the outputs? Means the columns. Remember when we talked about the structure of the query last Tuesday? We said it starts with the command key, which is select, and then second comes the parameter. The parameter here is the columns that we need to select. After the parameters, we have the from keyword. From keyword, which specifies to us the table that we are going to retrieve those columns from. And then after, so the minimum requirement for any SQL statement is the from keyword. But if we need to dig deeper and get specific information, we need to use the where statement. So where statement is optional, but it helps us retrieve the exact data that we are interested in. So let's look at this logical diagram. So this is one of the things that you will need to look at. When you have a query or you are asked to create a query for a question, a business question, the first thing that you will need to know or to look at is this diagram. You will need to look at this and identify first which table that query is required to be retrieved from. So first you identify the table, and how you identify the table, because you will be able to identify the output that they are asking about. For example, the cost. The cost is only here, so maybe it's from that table. So depending on the statement of the question or the business question, we will be able to identify the output, and then when we identify the output, we will know which table it should come from. And then if it comes from multiple tables, we will need to know how they are connected, those tables. For example, employee and sale, they are connected through employee ID. But we will not do joining or retrieving data from multiple tables until next week. So this week, we will just be retrieving data from only one table. So this is what we will need to look at. How to do that in Access, we will go to Data Tools and then Relationships. So this is what we will need to look at. Look at the logical model. And then we will start looking at the questions that they want us to answer. So those are sample questions that they want us to answer. So let's all of us try to answer those questions. So the first question tells us list all animals with yellow in their color. So now we'll keep that in mind. So what did we say the first thing we need to look at? Identify the output. So what are the output that we need to retrieve? Animals. So we need to retrieve the animals. So let's see where this would be from. So retrieve all animals with yellow in their color. So where we have animal, so we have, maybe it is this table, isn't it? The animal table. And then do we have color? Yes, we have color. So we have color, we have animal, ID, and we have name, and we have category. So here now, what output do we need to select? All of them, you think, or just specific output columns, or what do you think? Mario, what do you think? Which column should we select? Huh? Okay, who knows? There.
Color, category, four.
So yeah, those are optional to you. So whichever you want, you can select. So, but at least you got category definitely. Animal ID, we will need it. What else? Breed maybe? You can even select all if you want, because here it didn't tell you exactly what to select. So if you select all, that should be fine as well. So let's say that we will select all for now as the parameters, the columns. But what is our constraint? What is the qualifying condition? Where the color is yellow. So now, can we do this using the query by example first? Let's do that. Query by example. So let's create a query design. And then which table did we say we need? Animal. So we will select the animal table. And then we will look at this table here. So remember when we say the star sign will show us all the columns, we can either drag the star or we can just highlight the whole table and drag all of them here. And now, what did we say our constraint in that question? With yellow in their color. Does it say only yellow or maybe yellow? Maybe yellow can be part of the words. So if it says that, then we will have a different story. So before we move on, let me introduce to you the difference between SQL and Access. So as we mentioned, we said SQL is a standard language. It is a standard language that is recognized as a standard by the ANSI, which is the American National Institute for Standards, and it is also considered a standard by ISO. Have you heard about ISO, the International Organization for Standards? So it is recognized as a standard. However, we say some vendors might have their own kind of modifications, very tiny modifications, but the big picture is the same, but they might have different differences. As we mentioned that Access and SQL, they come from the same company, but they have tiny differences. And those are the differences are summarized to you here in the assignment. So for Access, we will use double quotation for text, for characters. For SQL Server, which is the web query, we will use only single quotation. For dates, we use the number sign in Access. In SQL Server, we use single quotation. The asterisk here, which means whatever character comes after or before, is the percentage sign in SQL Server. Question mark is the wild card, which is placeholder, and the underscore in the SQL Server. So now we have this background. Let's go back and look at this question here. List all animals with yellow in their color. So we said yellow in their color, so yellow can be maybe in the beginning, maybe at the end, maybe in between, somewhere. So in this case, we will use the asterisk, which tells us whatever comes before, whatever comes after, we need that yellow to be part of it. Anything that has yellow in it, please list it for us. So this is what we will have. So now what is our constraint from this question here with yellow, all animals with yellow in their color? So what will be our constraint? What should I put here? That way it retrieves to us the information that we need for this query.
Yellow.
Yellow, where should I put it? Under color? So where is color? Let's see. So I'll put yellow here. So since yellow is character, then I will have to use a quotation mark, and then an asterisk, which means anything that is before it, and then yellow, and then another asterisk, and then quotation mark. So do you think we are done? Do you think this should answer our question here? It should. So let's run it. So how many do we have? We have 22. So this is what we have. We have everything that has yellow in it. Some of them, they start with brown, yellow. Some of them yellow, start with yellow, but end with something else. So now we got that. So this is when we use the query by example. How about I want to use only SQL? So let's use SQL. So Melissa, so what we will be using as the code for the query here? SQL code. Select, yes, select star from animal.
Where color, and do you put like or
Like, because we will have the asterisk, so like.
or like,
So in quotation mark, is that right?
yeah.
Okay, and then yellow, then asterisk, and then quotation mark. So this should do it. So you think this should do it? So let's run it. Let's all of us run it and see to verify for Melissa if it is working or not. Did it work for everyone? Audrey, did it work?
We had 22 before.
Yeah. Do we have different number?
That's one.
You are 18. Audrey, how many did you get? Huh? Kelly?
Yeah,
Yeah, asterisks on both sides. Yellow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Audrey, when you get it, please let me know. Audrey, did you get it? Do you need help?
Oh. It's like 4.5. Okay.
Since you're on there. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is different. On that one, you just need to say the double.
It's like skipping. That's not what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
So now we all got it? Anyone? Anyone still needs help? Sandy, you got it? So now we have figured it out how to do it using Access, using Query by Design, and SQL. How about using the web query, SQL Server? So let's do that using the SQL Server, which will be through this one. So let's all of us try it. Having in mind, we looked at the differences. So what will be the equivalent to find asterisk in SQL Server? The percentage sign. So let's do that. Use the same one. So the ending here it is optional. In SQL Server, you can end it with a semicolon or without nothing. It should work. So let's
Change the quotation mark. Change it back to single.
Oh yes, single. So that's a good point. So yeah, let's remember those. Yeah. And how many? It tells us here.
What's your code? Oh, that's what you're asking.
Yeah, the asterisk for the first one, yes. So everyone got that for the query, the web query? Audrey, you got it? All right, so that was the first question. So let's look at the second question here that they want you to answer. List all dogs with yellow in their color born after 6/1/2004. So where would be the dog? So where do you think the dog would be? Under. Yes. So it is under category. If we are not sure, we can always open that table for animal. Let's open the table for animal and see where we can see a dog under category. So that's the field that we will need to look for dog in. So this is what we will look at. So it says we want to select or to list all dogs with yellow in their color born after 6/1/4. So in this case here we are going to use something called AND. So this is kind of the anatomy or the structure of SQL. So select and then you list the columns, and then from, specify the table, and then where if you have more constraints. So that was the first one. So list all docs. Now, remember when we talked about the use of and the use of or and the use of not? So now we are going to use and. So we need all the list to retrieve for us where all those conditions, both of those conditions are met. Means this condition where it is a dog and yellow and born after this date. So there is an and. So all of those conditions have to be met. So let's do that. We already decided that we are going to look at the table. So the output that we need, it says list all dogs. So maybe we can just put select all. Would that work? From animal. So what is our table? Will be animal. And then what our constraints? So select all from animal. Then what keyword should we use now to specify exactly what we want? So select all from animal. And then we will use the where keyword in order to be able to specify those conditions. So where color, like what we did earlier, and category equals dog, and date born equals or greater than this one. So let's do that. So let's create an SQL command for this one. So what did we say we want? select all those dogs that have color yellow in them and are born after, is it 6-1? 6104? Okay, let's do that. So select from animal. So let's all of us do this. That way we can see if we have the same output. So select all from animal. So where category equals dog. So this is the first, because they said only dogs. So we need the first one to be met. Where category equals dog, and, so that's the and operator. So and color, light. So we usually use light if we are going to use this asterisk or question mark sign or the, what we call it, any of those placeholders, we use like. So like, and then an asterisk, yellow, asterisk, quotation mark. So and, what was the last one? Date born. So we need to make sure also that we are spelling the name of the field exactly how it is in the table. And to do that, we can go to design view of animal table and see how it is spelled. So on date born, it says after 6-1, date born greater, and then what are we going to use here? Straight. And then we say 6-1, 2004. Should this do it? You think? Yes. Asterisk, when we use it at the beginning to select all columns, it should be an asterisk. In Access, we used asterisk, which its equivalent in SQL Server will be the question mark. Okay? So if we are using the web query, we replace that asterisk after like with a question mark sign. So that's a good question. So let's, all of you, did it work? So let's see, design, so now we have yellow, exactly as what we mentioned. And the dates, let's also verify, do we really have the exact information that we are looking for or not? So we said 1/6/2004. What do you think? Is this correct? And it is only dark. Perfect. Can we do this also in the query design? Let's do that in the web query. So let's do all, try it. So when we say that quotation should be single quotation in SQL Server, so what will be the equivalent for the hashtag in SQL Server? Single quote, yes. Did we get the same results also here? Did you all got the same? So if you got, if it didn't work, let me know. I'll see what. So, where did you go? So, so that was the second question. So let's see here the third question. List all merchandise for cats with a list price greater than 10. So please don't move on to the second slide. But before that, let's identify what output we need from this question. So let's look at this question. List all merchandise for cats with a list price greater than 10. So I'll keep this open here, and I need to look at this guy. So what did they say? They want list all merchandise for cats. So that's merchandise is a keyword for cats. And list price is another kind of keyword that we kind of hint, isn't it? So which table do you think we should look at?
Merchandise.
Merchandise. So do we have, so merchandise, we have list price, and exactly correct. And we have the category for to figure out that it is a cat. Okay, perfect. So let's try to solve that guy. Can we? Yes, let's do that. So we'll select all, just to make it easier. We can specify the exact column as well. Every column and then followed by a comma and then another column and so on. But for now, let's select all from merchandise. And then what were the constraints or the conditions or criteria? Category equals cat. Here, category. Category equals cat. Cats, and go singular. And the other condition was list price greater than 10. Is that right?
We need a hashtag around that.
And since it is numeric, we don't need. So anything that is numeric except for dates. So the hashtags only for dates, numeric, no, nothing around them. Text, yes, we will need quotation mark or single quotation mark for SQL Server. So let's run this guy. Did it work for anyone?
Yeah.
So how many writers we got?
4.
4. Yeah, let's run this with the web query and see what we will get.
4.
You got the same? Select all from So let's practice because you can do it in both. That way you get used to the differences between single quotation versus the double quotation. So everyone, is it clear? Chelsea, working fine? All right, so now let's move on and see what other questions we have here. So let's read this one here. There is one thing that we need to understand, and we have learned this, I believe, in elementary school or middle school. So when we talk about the precedence in terms of calculation, do you all remember that saying, please excuse my dear aunt Sally? Came back to Sally. So do you all remember that? So please excuse my dear aunt Sally. So please stands for parentheses, is that right? Anything that is in parentheses will be executed first in terms of precedence. If we have several calculation chunks, calculations, anything in parentheses will be executed first. Please excuse. E for excuse stands for what? Exponents. Exponents will be executed next. Multiplication next, and then dear division, and then on a addition, and then Sally subtraction. So now we got it all. So that was the same. We understand. But one thing that if you are not sure which one goes first, just use the parentheses. That's and the same. But when it comes to and or, which one gets the first precedence? If you remember. If not, then we can say and gets the first precedence. So the and conditions get first executed and then or comes next. So what about the direction of the execution? So do you think the direction, Kelsey, of the execution will be from right to left or from left to right? Left to right. So it starts from left to right. So that's the direction. And then if it comes to and or, and comes first. And then or comes next. So now we know the precedence from algebra. Now let's look at this example here. List all dogs who are male and registered or who were born before 6104 and have white in their color. So now we have like almost 5 conditions. So the first and outmost one is we need to select all of those animals that are dogs definitely. We don't want to joke about that. It should be definitely a dog. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second option, and then when it comes to next, we have options or. So after we make sure that every animal is a dog, then it comes that second statement after who. So who are male and registered, that's by itself. So they need to be either to be male and registered or another chunk born before 6-1 and have white in their color. That's another chunk. So the options will be between after who, the first who, and then the second who. So to do that, can we create an SQL statement for it? Let's do that. So using access. But before that, do we know which table it is from?
Animal.
Animal, okay. So select all from animal, where we'll start with the first guy. We said we need him to be a dog, definitely. No joking. So where category equals dog. So we don't joke about that. That's the first one. Now, do you think it would be a good idea now to put at parentheses that way? The other options, they are by themselves. But this one has to be done by itself. How would that? So what are the other options? It has to be, so let's go back and see. So dogs, so the second chunk will be, has to be male and registered. The male and registered. So what about registered? What do we mean by registered? It's a little bit vague. Let's understand what we mean by registered here. So registered means if they have something that is not null, that means it is registered. So that means if it is registered, it should not be null. So we got that one. All right, so where gender equals male, and what's the second one? We said registered. Registered is not null. Is that right? And then what is the option here? Or and or. And then we need to open the second chunk where it says date born and white in it. Date born.
Or 6.
So less than 6. And color white. Does this sound? So date born. So date born, we don't. If it is the name of the field, we don't put parentheses there. What do you mean for the date?
Well, I just don't know if there's
Yeah, close it. Let's see. Make sure that it is closed. So date born, you are right. It's not closed yet. So let's close this guy.
Okay, like this.
So now we will try to run it. Did it run?
No.
So let's see. It doesn't say.
EDA.
So let's see.
You say like,
Oh, there is an and here. Is that right? There should be an and after dog.
oh,
So you get 63, but can you demonstrate you get 63? Can you look at the animal column just to make sure your query answer is correct or not? So we say we need this guy to be dog and only dog. Is that right?
I have 43 though, but no.
Should be around 53, 52. So now that means we have something wrong. Because we say we want it to be dog and only dog. We don't want anything else. And I see some cats here. Yeah. So we need to use the parentheses correctly. That way we make sure that this guy gets executed first. So for that one, this is what we will need to do. So where we will open a parenthesis here for category. So we need to close this, open a parenthesis here around category close dog. That way we consider it as a chunk. And then have another parentheses between for the two conditions for the or. So let's see. So this is what I did. If you look at the category and dog, I put parentheses. Now I will put another parentheses before gender. And then at the end. So remember that the or is in the middle between two conditions that are and. So we'll put parentheses from the beginning of gender, and we will close it with another parenthesis and see if that will give us something else, something different. So did you see now we have, it didn't work? Yeah, but do you see now we have only dogs? So let's see. So which one, so did you all,
I have all dogs because I have 43.
43, so let's
Now
correct,
it doesn't work.
so let's correct the parentheses. So who got something else? Did you get it?
I had 23, then I had 56, then I had 43.
So 53 should be the ultimate because it has all dogs. Now we are sure that it has all the numbers. So let's see what you got it, Audrey?
Let's look at 43. There it is. I have this
Oh, some of them, yeah.
That's the 43. So it's 43.
Yeah. One thing, that we have one. The deep one, I think.
Oh, color white. Is that needed? No, I got three. Is it? No.
This is the
So everyone in this area, you got it? 53? So now, do you think we can run it also in the web query? Let's try it in the web query. Because your assignment will be based on the web query, so access will be helpful, but the web query will be the one that you will need to submit. So let's say we say select card, create candidate, card. So and 53. Let's look up here. So what can remind us the options? So where category equals dog, and then
boring. Left. What? Color, like,
Sure. Yes. No.
let's see. Now there's this guy.
Open access.
So did you all get it? Import now. So now let's look at the second or the next one. So now we will be dealing with some aggregate, some math. Remember when we talked about the mathematical or arithmetic functions? So now we are going to create those arithmetic functions here. So those are the operators that we have been dealing or using after where. So we have been using less than, equal, greater, not equal. So the not equal, see how unique it is? It is a greater and equal sign. Greater and less than together means not or not equal. So that's one thing to know. And then we have been using all of those guys. So let's look at this one here. This is from a table that we have. And then we created a new field or a new column just for the calculation to tell us the total that will be assigned. So if you notice here, we have price and we have quantity. So what is the total due? Will be the extended. So we multiply the price times the quantity to give us the total that is due on the customer. To do that, we can create a function using SQL. So can we do that? Let's try this one. Let's try this guy. So we need to select, like what we have here, order ID, item ID, sales price, and quantity, or select all. How about that? Select all to make it easier and faster. So select all from sale, select all, and then it might not work. We'll see it will work. If we select all and then comma, and then put this sales price times quantity as extended. Let's see if that will work for us. So let's see. So from the sales item, we need to create a new field that will multiply the quantity times price to give us kind of the extended or the total. So to do that, let's use access. Do we know which table we need? So it is called sales item. So quantity times price. Those are the ones that we are interested in. So if we say select all and then comma and then quantity times price from sale item. Would that work?
Why aren't we using sale animal?
Huh?
Why aren't we using sale animal?
Sale item, we don't have quantity in it. Because we need to calculate or multiply quantity times price. So it seems to be if we select all, it doesn't accept anything besides it. So in this case, we will select another column. Let's say that we want to select sale or item ID, comma, quantity times price, and then you can, to give the title to that field, you can say as, and then give it a name. Let's say total underscore due, because the name of the field should not have any space.
Shouldn't your price be sale price?
Is that how it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's use it as it is called there. So let's see what we got. So from have space. Is that what we called it? Sale item. Did it work?
How many records?
306. So let me go back to So is that what we got? So now the idea behind this is to create a new column that is calculating some value for us. So now let's look at this question that we need to be answered by this sample questions. So now looking at that example, I will ask each one of you to try it yourself, and then we will see how we can how the answer will be. So what is the average sale price of all animals? So you can discuss it between you and your neighbor to decide which table it is from, and what output it is, and what are those constraints. So that's the question we have. What is the average sale price of all animals? The sale price. So for that, we need to look at a logical market. That way we can understand exactly which table we should look at.
Oh.
So in this case here, just to heads up, you will not be able, you will not need to select all. Just go ahead and do select and then average ABC, parentheses sale price from whatever table that should be from, and see if that will be fine.
I don't know how to open that.
Or no.
Did we all know which table, were we able to identify the table? Because we have animal, ID, and then also the sales. So everyone got it? Andy? Average name, currency.
Yep. Yeah, with sports people, everyone can navigate. April, that's still cold. It's gonna take 99 degrees.
If you download the new one,
Yeah. But then at the same point, time,
Okay.
5 6 6.
Yeah.
That's your work job.
It's a lot of sell price.
That if they only get their 40, they started doing 10, 40 an hour.
All right, so now how did you get it? So what did you guess?
Well, actually, nobody did it though. Like what? Oh,
Now let's focus on what is the average sale price of all animals. So we first need to decide which table to come in. So we need to go
what was it?
So the question is the average sale price for all animals. So we need the sale price and all animals in that table. So which table it is? Profit rate. So now let's create the sales price. So you would leave the average, and you use the paper and see what number you get. Tell me what the number you get. So now looking at this one, so now looking at this question, can we all kind of just wrap it up and decide which table this should come from?
That one?
So what is the total cost we paid for all animals? So what is the total cost? So we paid for all animals. Cost. So that's a key word for all animals. Which table do you think it should come from, or we should be able to answer this question fast? So we need animal to be part of that table, and we need also the keyword cost. So which one? Kind of you can see. This one? Yeah. You think it's reasonable? Can we do the total? So what would be the total? Like the, are we gonna use average or count or what? Sum. So the keyword would be sum. Can you do that? So you should be able to do it. So let's move on, and I will let you do this just for practice. And then let's see the next question. What is the total value of the order for product number 22? So the total value. So what do we mean by total value? Total value means quantity times cost. Is that what it is? Is that right? We need to multiply quantity times cost. So what table it is coming from? Order item. So that's how we will do it. So in this case, what are you going to do? Sum, and then in parentheses, you will multiply cost times quantity to give you only the lump sum, the total. All right, and then what's next? So how many cats are in the animal list? This is easy, isn't it? So what will you be doing? So select count, animal ID, let's say, where category equals, that should give you the number, isn't it? Did anyone run it really quick to tell us the number? Or you can run it by yourself later. So count the number of animals in each category. This will be interesting. So you will need to list all the categories in one column and then the count of each category in front of it. So for this one, what will you be doing? You'll be select category, comma, count, and then in parentheses you will put animal ID and then from the table, which is animal. Do you want me to do this really quick?
Yeah.
So let's do that. So what was the question again? Count the number of animals in each category. There is nowhere. You should do it. So did I do something wrong? Select category, count animal ID. Did I spell anything wrong? Let's just do something. Sometimes this tells you that if you
It says that it doesn't include category as a specified expression of aggregate.
so let's see, select category, or let's select count animal ID. I didn't close the parentheses maybe. So category on animal. So let's see if this will run. Does not include the expression category as part of the function. So we need to list. So we'll select category, comma, count, animal ID should be,
What's it supposed to be?
huh?
What's the number supposed to be?
So let's see here. So select count from animal. So group by, because that's a keyword that we need to use when we are using any of those aggregate sum, average, and so on. Group by category. So let's see if this will work. So this is what we need to actually see.
So it's used group by category.
So group by should be the last, yeah, group by category. Should be,
Can you show us what you're doing?
okay. So select category, comma, count animal ID, as you can give it the name here, and then from animal, group by category. So this should give you kind of, because we need to know the category name and what is the sum or total of animals in that category. So the rest should be simple, but we will stop at this point here list the last name because we will need two tables. So we'll continue next week. So this will be practice for you.
Let's stop there.
We will stop at this one. So we will not move beyond, so we will not do this one. List the last name of every customer.